Another day, another prospect breakdown, and we're moving on through our quarterbacks. Second on this list is Ty Simpson, Alabama QB. Now, he had a pretty productive senior season, and even despite that, we were still surprised to see him decide to enter the NFL draft. But keep in mind, it's a week draft, and if anyone has the opportunity to capitalize on that, it's someone like Ty Simpson. 23-year-old redshirt junior. Unlike a lot of prospects during the NIL era, he decided to stay at Alabama all throughout his career and really developed and finally took over his senior season, and that's what's going to be him on the lower end of the starts that we like to see him at 15, but again, wasn't a terrible season. 3,567 yards, 305 completions on 473 attempts for a 64.5% completion percentage, 28 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a QBR of 145.2 and 7.5 yards per attempt. Those are very modest numbers, and particularly the interceptions, because a lot of those came in the same game, which I'm going to talk about. Very productive, and he's capable of making every throw throughout the field. That's a lot of the reason he was second team all SEC and a semifinalist of all the awards that matter. The Maxwell Award, Walter Camp, Davey O'Brien. Only reason why he wasn't on top of that Heisman board up there with Diego Pavia is because the back half of the season and going through his strengths, processor, good velocity and ball placement, good mobility, and mostly polished mechanics. This guy can move around all over the field. He can run through RPOs and actually separate from some linebackers and most defensive linemen. He can make every throw all over the field at all three levels and from hash mark to hash mark. Not really a problem for him to make 15-yard outs. Not really a problem for him to hit the deep ball. He's got the ball placement and the velocity. Now, those weaknesses, he does get happy feet when he sees pressure, and he occasionally forces throws. That means whenever there's some engaged offensive lineman starting to back up into his face, then he wants to hurry that play up. And he either does that by taking the ball and running, and then he just straight up tucks the ball. Doesn't even give himself an option to make a play after booting out or escaping, and just kind of takes off. And that's what forces some of those turnovers as well, because he wants to hurry up and hit that receiver well before they're open, or maybe not even open at all. And again, I keep bringing up the OU game, which is going to be the most talked about tape when it comes to his negatives. A lot of erratic throws. Some of those sailed high where a receiver wasn't even near. Some of those went behind, and even though it was on a row, straight to a defender. We get this knowledge that not only did he suffer a rib injury in the college football playoffs, but even before that, even through the second half of the season, he was battling an elbow injury to his right arm. That would lead to a lot of these incompletions. And keep in mind, that is going to be the major factor as to what's going to decide his overall draft capital, is how much the NFL is willing to buy that injury, because it really is a tale of two tapes. It's not like some of these inconsistencies creep up in his earlier tape. Yes, all quarterbacks can make certain mistakes, but he really did look like a much different player after that OU loss. Overall, like I said, he's a very, very solid player that I expect to go towards the back half of the first round, if not early in the second round, just because almost 9-10 teams, depending how confident you are on some people returning, 10 teams that need quarterbacks. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity, and especially at a position like quarterback, a lot of teams are willing to gamble a lot more than almost any other position. There is a lot of clean tape of a very polished prospect that fits the modern era of having a big arm and the mobility to run RPOs, scramble, and have escapability as these NFL defensive ends get faster and stronger. He has it. But as long as that erratic behavior is just contributed to injury and recovering and not something that's going to be a consistent part of his game, I think we got a pretty decent prospect. Right now, I have his ceiling at Jackson Dart. Right now, I just see the same bet where a lot of these teams are going to need QBs, so he's going to go in the back half of the second to a much better situation than, let's say, Fernando Mendoza, who's likely going to be a Raider, and we can see some success. But he is going to be on the back half of the first round, which means he could be a bust, as we see those rates of success greatly dwindle as we move lower and lower into the top 50 players, which brings me to where his floor is, which is Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was also mobile, had an arm to make every throw, could do everything you needed, but was a very erratic player and turnover prone. So it just remains to be seen. I'm willing to bet on him. I was low at first, and if you watched our top 6 video, I was even willing to put Garret Nussmeier ahead of him. Now I'm a lot less confident in that mobility. It kind of puts him ahead of Nussmeier at this point, especially having that injury context. Well, that'll do it for me. My name's Jagger May. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe button, and if you want to do your own prospect breakdowns, make sure to go over to Dynasty Nerds, sign up for the Nerd Herd, and you can have access to all of our rankings, tools, GM stuff if you're into Dynasty, and more importantly, our big prospect film room where you can look at all this tape yourselves. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.